Hi everybody, this is Carl Alstetter, and today I'm going to be showing you a video of me coloring one of my character designs. This character's name is Shade, and he's from a concept that I've created called Gekisen Warriors. Gekisen Warriors is a combination of a comic book, uh, a collectible card game, and an action figure. And they all work together to create a seamless gaming experience. So, um, one of the things, I have a couple different approaches to coloring. In this particular one, it's a combination of what is referred to as cell shading style, but with a little bit of American comic book, modern American comic book digital color rendering. And what I start out with is flat colors. And what I'm doing at this stage is, you can already see I've blocked in the main color pieces, and I'm beginning to add highlights. And what I try to do is start out with a base color that's not as dark as I intend to go with the piece, but sort of a middle tone, so that way I can, when I'm coloring it, I'm working more towards the light. And that's really kind of what I'm trying to do, is imagine how the light falls across the different pieces. In this case, it's the armor. And I'm trying to bring those shapes to life by modeling them in a way that expresses how I imagine them when I drew them. So right here, you see me jumping around. I'm doing a little bit of cleanup on some of the line work and blocking in some more of the shapes, the flat colors. And I like to keep the flat colors on a separate layer, so that way if I need to do any selections later on or changing colors or anything like that, I can access them easily and make changes. So, I have a lot of custom brushes, but in the end, when I'm moving really fast and I'm coloring something, I just usually use the same brush. I just move it to different settings in terms of how hard the brush is, how much flow it has, and how much opacity it has. And so, like right now, I'm using it as sort of like I imagine it to be like a smaller paintbrush, and that in this case, the settings would be a little bit harder, and the opacity would be closer to 100% opacity, and the flow would be close to 100%, so that I can create really just like blocks of color. And that's what I'm doing here, which is kind of the second level of rendering on top of the flat colors. So I don't think you really need a lot of custom brushes when you're just doing straight ahead coloring. If you're doing some sort of concept art thing where you need like lots of textures, then those brushes kind of can come in handy for blocking in large shapes as you go. In this case, I'm just doing selections with the selection tool, and then I'm going back and sort of coloring in those pieces with a brush that has a less opacity, so that way it has a little bit more of a value when it's painted, in terms of from the highlight out to the dark. As you can see right there, I'm sort of painting out to the darker spots. So I'm sort of focusing on where the highlight would land and then sort of painting out from there. So you're really using the light to generate the shapes, like I mentioned earlier. One of the other things I like to do when I'm coloring is, after I've sort of blocked in the main rendering pieces, I like to come back and before I add the final highlights or the final darker shades, I like to go in and sort of do what I call like a global lighting. So I'll lay down some sort of environmental lighting. In this case, it's going to be like almost a yellowish green on the high end, and a darker blue in the shadow area. And what I do with that is I lay it in on top of it. I use the selection tool, and I lay that in over the top of the rendered work. And this allows me to get in there and mess with the different layer settings and begin to see what kind of ideas come from it, really. And so you see right here, I'm experimenting, trying different ideas, and seeing how it goes. and trying to find something that really embodies the mood of it. I like to keep the highlight color or the environmental highlight color on one layer and the darker shadow color on a separate layer. That way I can sort of, uh, you know, the opacity of it I can go back and forth with and create different effects as I go. So at that point, I kind of have some ideas about what I want to do, and now I get back to doing more of the highlights. And one of the things I've learned over the years is you don't want to overpaint the highlight, in the sense that you don't want it to become so big that it becomes the dominant. You want it to create a sense of shine, but you don't want it to overwhelm what you're doing in terms of the other rendering. So you really want to be very delicate with the highlights and make sure that you're just making the underdrawing pop out. So right here I'm experimenting with also the idea of maybe adding a side light, rim light type thing. But I decided to go with more of just a standard lighting, and I'm going in, adding in all the major highlights, still trying to show off what the shapes are underneath it. And once you're to this point, it's kind of more about creating a sense of mood for the piece in my mind. You've already got the basic color ideas down in terms of the costuming of the characters, but I think you really want to try to bring it to life in terms of like where it is in an environment. In this case, I wanted to get that dark anti-hero feel with him, so that's kind of why I put the darker colors in there. So here I am experimenting also with his weapon, which is a sword that generates flame. And so I tried different ideas, blurring out the flames to give it sort of a glow effect, and I didn't really find what I wanted, so I went back to an idea I'd had when I first thought up the character, which is to have the flame actually almost like a lightsaber generating directly from the weapon. So that's what I decided to do. So here I am rendering the flames. I started out with a base color, and then I create a separate layer, and the bottom layer I blur, and then I add in highlights and the flame effects. And then as part of the game of Gekisen Warriors, the characters have a glowing centerpiece that when you shake the character, it actually glows. So here I am adding that effect to this character design. And here it is, the final piece. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be posting some more stuff soon.